Joining me is Dr. Judith Hendry. Let's just get right into this. Why is it that there's a perception that the human race and the natural world are on this collision course of sorts?
Well, there's all kinds of reasons for it, but I don't think it comes as a surprise to anyone that we are facing some very serious environmental problems. And the antecedents that have led up to humans' relationship to the natural world are historical, they're political, there's very many of them. But I think in the book I talk about three main influences that has led to our current situation. And the first of these is kind of controversial and quite surprising when it came out in the 1970s. An author by the name of Lynn White, Jr. Leveled a scathing indictment against Christianity as one of the causes of our environmental problems.
Interesting.
And back then in the 1970s when this was first published, that went the equivalent of today's viral. And it really started a whole new dialogue about the role of Judeo-Christian doctrine in our environmental problems. Certainly Christianity has led to what White termed the arrogance of humans towards nature in this dominion paradigm, where we are here and nature is below us, and that is according to God's word, God's plan. And now there's a whole area of research and thinking called eco-theology that just looks at the role of Christianity in determining humans' relationship to the natural world. Another very significant impact in the way that we view and treat the natural world was the Enlightenment. Prior to the Enlightenment, you know, with John Locke and Francis Bacon, roughly the 16th and 17th centuries. Prior to that, the natural world was seen as organic, and nature was this loving, giving Mother Earth character who obviously was sometimes capricious and not quite so loving. But once the Enlightenment happened, once we started viewing nature not as this organic mother whole, but we started viewing nature as something that could be observed through scientific means, and it could be dissected and we could understand it and therefore control it. A third influence on the way that we view and treat the natural world is the Industrial Revolution. And in the 19th century is when we really started using natural resources, when we were able to put into effect manufacturing techniques, when we were really able to have the machinery to actually control and really destroy the natural world. And so at that
sort of underscored the control we'd gotten after the Enlightenment.
Absolutely. We figured out how to do it, and now we put all these factories into place. People moved from rural America into the urban centers, and all of a sudden the distance between that perfectly packaged tomato and the natural resources where that tomato came from are now very distant, very separate. We have very little concern at this point from where our food comes from or where the resources come from that are used to produce everything we purchase without exception.
What is environmental communication, and why is it important that we understand that the products that we're consuming are from nature?
Environmental communication is a relatively new area of research and inquiry within the communication discipline. And it's based on the fundamental premise that the way that we communicate about the natural world profoundly influences and to some extent, to a large extent, in fact, determines how we view and treat the natural world. That most of my understanding of the natural world comes to me from somebody else or something else, not from my own personal understanding or experiences. Our perceptions of the natural world and how we are treated are largely mass-mediated. Not entirely, but they're largely mass-mediated. We are bombarded daily with messages about the environment. So it's very important to look at all of these messages, where they're coming from, who's producing them.
Motivation behind them.
Exactly.
Yes.
What are the implications of these messages?
Sure.
And so as a field of study, we look at things like environmental advertising, we look at news reporting, we look at things like the messages that are sent up via things that we wouldn't really even think about too much. For example, greeting cards, or children's books, or popular cultural messages like television shows, and on and on. The list is endless.
You write in your book about the relationship between the natural world and the human world is broken.
The second message that is in almost all of these messages that we receive is one of anthropocentrism, which is a very human-centered way of viewing the world. And it fundamentally means that the only real value of nature is as a resource for humans. That if nature isn't useful to humans in one form or the other, either to chop down and make a product out of, or for us to go camping and hiking in, if it isn't useful to us in some way, then there is no inherent value. Very much a human-centered perspective, as opposed to an ecocentric perspective, which views, much broader. Nature has intrinsic value in and of itself, regardless of whether or not it is of any use to humans.
Is the perception that the world might end maybe part of that disconnect?
So apocalyptic rhetoric has something that environmentalists have used over the many decades to try and get the message out, to try and instill a little fear. And in apocalyptic rhetoric, it's humans who are destroyed. Nature is fine. I mean, there are a couple of implications for using this kind of extreme rhetoric. And one is the Chicken Little effect. That environmentalists have been screaming the sky is falling for so long, and you know what? It's still there. So you've got the radical rhetoric of the environment, and then you've got the skeptics saying, oh, but global warming isn't real, it's all a hoax. And so what it tends to do for those of us, for the lay people who aren't environmental scientists, it tends to throw us in the middle to say, well, it's probably not this far, and it's probably not this far over here, it's somewhere in the middle. The hegemony of the center. And the hegemony of the center is not where things get done, is not where policy is made.
Stay in that gray area.
Exactly.
But in some ways, I think that's why the extremes exist, so you can get to the middle.
It's a very comfortable place to be, Augusta.
You don't have to make a decision.
Yeah, it is. But I would suggest to you that with issues like global warming, we just simply cannot afford to remain in that comfortable, let's wait and see.
Yeah.
That comfortable middle just isn't going to work for us. We need to act.
Explore it, think about it, consider it, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing it. This has been a fascinating topic.
Great.
Really great.
Excellent. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Me too.
Our interest is in using new media as a focal point to bridge disciplines and create new knowledge. Full-Dome comes out of the planetarium, which was the first VR. And then artists started mashing in, knocking on the door, and it's like, let me do something in here.
One last cruise, Taos Plaza. This morning I decided to throw one more cruise through the plaza.
I began to hang out with the cognitive scientists and the people who are deeply into perception and all this math and stuff, and took this other direction in my art where I became really interested in how we see.
When you go into a dome, into a full-dome theater, one is you're normally around a lot of different people. You get back in a seat, the lights go out, and your eyes and your ears are completely filled with the experience that's been created for you.
Their father was reborn as the god of corn. We Maya believe that corn is the sacred substance of life. Corn is as precious to us as Venus, the planet that helps guide our daily lives. They are both part of the ongoing rhythm of life, death, and rebirth. Fulfilling their destiny, the hero twins rose into the sky and became the sun and moon.
This is large, it's for a big audience, it slows you down, and you create these experiences that people share together. It doesn't look like any other picture you've seen because you're inside of it. You lose those frames that are so we're accustomed to, and your peripheral vision is engaged. You can sense the rest of the audience in it, but we're all in it at once. So this creates these experiences that can really take you to different places.
Do you have a question for our experts? Please email us your viewer questions and comments to askconnect@newmexicopbs.org. Thank you for watching. Production support provided by the University of New Mexico.